Hi guys, today we are going to take some simple materials and make a couple of baking pans for our 18-inch dolls to use in their kitchen. Stay tuned and see how easy this project is. Well, our first step to making our baking pans is to prepare our material that we're going to use. And I'm using what I refer to as paperboard, which what I mean by that is like boxes, like you get cereal or crackers or whatever in. I like cereal boxes because they're usually really big and you can get several things out of them. So I've cut two pieces. This will make two pans. They're each cut 6 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and those measurements will be on the blog post. I'm pulling out my scoreboard again that I showed last week. You could do this step with like the back of a craft blade knife, just like I showed you last week with the shoe boxes, but whatever you've got. So we're going to start on the long sides. We're going to score at a 1/2 inch on both long sides. And this one you're going to have to push pretty firmly, not firmly enough to tear, because you can go through this with the scoring tool if you're not careful, but firm enough that you're making a good dent. Now, on the short ends, they're a little different. We want at 1/4 and then at 3/4 of an inch. This gives us that little spot to fold over like a handle or like the end of a baking dish. See? If you go crooked, don't worry about it. Just correct and be careful when you fold. If you've gone up, you need to quit talking and pay attention. It is harder with this material than with cardstock. Now, I like to turn my box over and score again on these short ends at the 1/4 inch mark, because they are actually folding the other direction, and by scoring them both ways, they'll be a little easier to fold. I'm going to repeat the process on this one. Short ends at 1/4 and 3/4. 1/4 and 3/4. And now at a 1/2. And on the back side. And now I'm going to turn the camera off and we're going to move to my regular work table where I've got a better area to work and film. Alright, so now I'm set up at my regular work table. So all I have done here is I have pre-folded on my score lines, and we're going to have this side with the print on the outside because one of these casserole dishes or baking pans I'm going to paint like metal. It'll come out kind of like this one, and the other one I am going to make look more like ceramic or stoneware, and for that I want a white finish on the inside and a dark color on the outside. And I've discovered that my finish allows some of this color to bleed through on white paint. I'm working on a solution, and if it works I'll show you that. Things are not dry yet though. So when you're folding this, we really want to concentrate on getting these really creased nicely on around the center. That will make your pan turn out much better. Now, either using a craft knife or a pair of scissors, just like with the shoe boxes, we are going to cut and do some trimming right on that score line. And I like to do this one first, cut off that extra tab again because we don't need that. And then because, actually I'll go a little bit back further. Now, I want this to be really neat, so I'm going to actually trim this just a little bit like that. Also, I like to make my end a little bit angled. It just makes it look a little nicer. That part's optional. These cuts can come in any order you like, whatever works for you, and they don't have to be perfect. But that being said, the more time you take making it look nice, the nicer it's going to be in the end. There. I'm only going to cut one of these on camera. I'll do the other one off camera. Just because I'm doing 2 of these doesn't mean you have to watch the whole process twice. Now this end, you can angle it, you can round it, you can do whatever you want. You could leave it square if you want to. However you want it. Now, I am going to do some gluing. I've got my Fast Grab Tacky again. And I'm going to clamp. My preferred way to use glue is to put a little bit out on my tray. Oh, and I've got clamps. Put it out and use a toothpick to apply it. It's a lot neater that way. We're going to apply glue to all 4 of these. These are going to be glued on the outside so that the inside of our baking pan or casserole dish, however you want to call it, has a nice smooth interior just like a real one. And they kind of blend in down there. Now, fold that up. Make sure that this is a nice angle, that this is folded really squarely, and clamp. Now this glue has got to get completely dry before our next step. Don't fudge on that. I do find, by the way, if I put my items under my work lights, I have some big lights obviously for doing videos. If I just leave these underneath my lights with my lights turned on for a little bit, it speeds up the gluing process. So that's that step. Let me get this one caught up, and when the glue's all dry, I'll be back. Right, now that our glue is dry, we can take our clamps off. And the next step is going to be kind of messy, but I'm going to show you a little something I've been experimenting with before I start the next step. I said at the beginning that I'd had some trouble with the finishes bleeding through the paint. And here, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but you can just barely see some red showing through. And this is the way I had intended to paint, how I usually do this. I got this one to work. So if you want to do your casserole dish or your baking dish white on both sides, like you want to make a white container, I recommend you do this next step with gesso. Gesso it's like a really heavy primer that's used in a lot of different art applications. I always have this on hand. This seems to be our solution. Since I'm going to paint the outside a dark color, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to use regular craft paint. Now, my preference for craft paint has always been, and probably always will be, Ceramic Coat by Delta. Excuse me. For our ceramic or stoneware looking pan, we are going to paint with white. For the metal look pan, we need black. Now, the next step, this step is messy for a couple of reasons. The main one being, and I'm just going to put my paint directly in my pan because I'm going to put a lot of paint on there. We're not only going to paint this side, but we don't want our cardboard or our paperboard to warp. So we need to paint both sides. And you can go ahead and pull some of this out and use it to paint the back side too. And you'll probably notice I'm working on a tile. This is a ceramic tile, same type of tile I use when I do my clay work. This is my typical work surface when I'm crafting. It cleans up really easily. It's portable if I need to move this off my table to do something else. Now, there. This is going to take 2 coats. Off camera, I'm going to, after this dries, I'm going to come back and do a second coat. And after the second coat is dry, well, let me get this one started too. I'm going to do the same thing on this one, except with the black paint. Just be sure you paint both sides. Like I said, that is key to this project, to making it work. And base coating is really, really important. What we're doing with this, we're putting down a base that our paint will cover, that our final color will cover. We're also sealing the cardboard or the paperboard to protect it from future steps that we're doing. I wasn't quite as generous with my black paint, so I'm going to get a little more. Another reason I love working on a tile, I need to squirt my paint out and work right from my tile. It is my work surface, it is my palette, it is my gluing surface, and it just cleans up super easy later. I think you get the idea here. I'm going to finish coating this just like the white one, and then I will coat them again with a second coat, just another drop. And after the second coat's dry, I'll be back. All right, I think we have a pretty good coat of paint, and the paint is dry. Now, one of the things I love about using these tiles, I can just clean my tile up and get rid of all this mess. This paint is dry. I hit it with my heat gun to take the rest of the moisture off the paint on the tile. These paint scrapers are great. Wet wipe, and now the majority of my mess will go in my trash can. All right, now we can paint the inside and the outside separately. This black one is going to be my silver one, or my aluminum, or whatever metal pan you want to pretend it is. I like Ceramicoat metallic silver. From what I have found, by the way, you want to kind of, work on your shape of your pan a little bit now. But from the silver paints I've worked with, this one seems to work the best for me. So this is the one I almost always use. It's nice and thick. It coats pretty well in just a few coats. And it will take probably 2. Now, one thing, if you want to make your pan look old and kind of dirty, or worn, don't put as many coats on this silver paint. Put 2 on. If you want it to look brand new straight out of the store, you might want to put 3 or 4 or more coats on. You can see this paint covers really nicely. Now, I will finish that one in a moment. Let me get a wet wipe. Now for this pan, I am going to do the inside in this kind of light ivory. I don't want it quite stark white. And then I'm going to do the outside. I've got this hunter green. I just kind of felt like doing a dark green for this one. I'm just going to, first off, let's kind of get the pan reshaped. There. Now when this paint on the outside dries, I should have probably tested my paint before I did this, but that's okay. And this is going to take at least 2 coats. And I see I've got paint all over. Well, anyway, I am going to get some more paint out of this jar, this bottle, paint the outside of this one, finish painting the outside, that one silver. When that's all done, I'll probably do 2 coats and then I'll be back. Alright, so the outside is painted. It's not perfect. This green paint is not working very well, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. It's fine. And now I'm going to paint the inside. And I think I mentioned I'm going to use this off-white. Let's see if have I opened this? Ah, brand new paint. Since I'm painting the inside, it's just easier to put paint, oops, get a wet wipe, to put paint right inside. And I like the slightly off-white color rather than the bright white. Anyway, you can see what I'm going to do there. With this one, I'm doing the same thing with silver paint. I'll squirt a little bit in. And I'll probably need to do 2 coats on the inside, just like I did the outside. When I get both coats on and dry, I'll be back. Alright, now that my paint is all dry, I'm not worried about the bottom because it will probably never show, but I love how the top and the sides look. This one is done. Don't do any more to this. If you want more coats of silver paint on, that's up to you, but the finish on that one is completely done. If you need to, you can kind of adjust the shape. Now, I'm going to make this look like ceramic, or like it's got a high gloss finish. I'm using triple thick. This is it's an incredible product if you want to do a really quick, really shiny finish on something. It does have a slight odor. Not as bad as I thought it was going to when I first got it. The thing I like about it is with one coat, I can get a pretty complete. Very seldom do I have to go back and do a second coat, in other words. It's a nice coat. It seems to me that it self-levels somewhat, meaning I don't have brush strokes left. I mean, I can see brush strokes now, but when this by the time this dries, they'll be pretty much invisible. Now, be careful that you don't leave enough that it drips. I'm trying to get the entire outside done. And that's for 2 reasons. Number one, I want to do it this way while it's standing upside down. But also in case my brush is picking up any of the green paint, which it can. Clear finishes can pick up whatever you're painting them over. So be careful of that. Get that nice and coated. And then I have 2 paint jars. A little closer, don't fall. Try not to get too many fingerprints. And I'm going to let that dry there. When that's dry, I'll flip it over, I'll put a coat on the inside, and then I'll be back. Alright, so now that the triple thick is dry, we have a baking pan. Well, we have 2 because we have the silver one that we finished earlier. So, I hope you enjoyed this project. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. And be sure to come back next week because we're going to put something in here. I'll let you know what that is when the time comes. I'll talk to you later. Bye.